every pony, it's time once again to don the hat and jump right back into part 2 of the pilot. Mayor Mare takes charge of the situation, ordering the royal guard to seize Nightmare Moon, but Nightmare wards them off with lightning bolts, then turns into some sort of fog and escapes into the night. Rainbow breaks free of Applejack's rather impressive grip on her tail and witnesses Twilight rushing back to the library.
Fleeing the scene of a crime. Highly suspicious.
Spike is raring to go after Nightmare, but can't keep his eyes open any longer, even sleeping through the ruckus Twilight makes while tearing the library apart trying to find information on the elements of harmony. Rainbow confronts Twilight and her impressive knowledge, accusing her of being a spy. The other 4 ponies arrive right behind her, Applejack diffusing the situation and logically just asking Twilight what's going on. Twilight explains all about the prophecy and the elements, but says she doesn't know much about the elements or how to find them. Pinkie immediately finds the right book on the shelf, and when questioned about how, she simply answers that it was under E.
I hate it when your logic makes sense.
This is a trend with Twilight that's remained true throughout the entirety of the show's run. When Twilight gets into a panic, or at least is incredibly frightened, she forgets what resources she has at hoof. Many analysts point out several spells she has in her arsenal that she could have used in dire circumstances, and she constantly forgets that her friends not only have a large array of skills that can help her, but that they're more than happy to help her, especially when she's freaking out about something. I'm not sure if this was an intentional flaw that has been worked into her character, or if it was just something the writers tended to do on a regular basis for the sake of plot. Either way, I really like it, especially the fact that it is such a consistent character trait that the rest of the cast have turned it into a verb. When you think about it, it makes a lot of sense for her to have this trait. Even the most intelligent people in the real world tend to be a little forgetful at times, and we all have moments more often than not where we forget important or even basic things. Twilight begins reading from the book, listing off each element: kindness, laughter, generosity, honesty, and loyalty, though the 6th is as of yet unknown. As she reads, the mist that is Nightmare can be seen eavesdropping outside the window, and as soon as Twilight mentions that the element's last known location was the castle of the Royal Sisters, it heads straight there. The castle is located in the Everfree Forest. The tone of the girls' voices tells us immediately that this place is bad news. Twilight wants to go alone, but the other 5 girls insist on going with her. They exposit that no pony goes into the forest because it isn't natural. Rainbow claims that no pony who goes in ever comes back out. I'm just gonna chalk this up to Rainbow being Rainbow, as this statement is proven false many times over, as Granny Smith and Zecora at least were both known to have gone in and out of the forest prior to this episode, Zecora on a regular basis. Nightmare causes the cliff the girls are standing on to collapse. Rainbow and Fluttershy grab Pinkie Pie and Rarity respectively, while Applejack grabs Twilight, keeping her from falling over the edge. She then tells Twilight she'll be fine if she lets go, insisting it's the honest truth that she'll be safe. Twilight lets go and is caught by Rainbow and Fluttershy.
Well, just lean back and let go, because I'm not going anywhere, buddy.
Nightmare then attacks a Manticore, who immediately starts going berserk on the girls. Rarity actually shows a little initiative at first, then leaves the fight when her hair gets ruined, though it's fine in the next few seconds. Fluttershy is trying to stop every pony as they're all fighting it, and finally succeeds, walking over to pull a thorn from its paw, which calms it. Twilight asks how she knew what needed to be done, and Fluttershy answers that she didn't. She says every now and then we all need to be shown a little kindness. I think I can see where this is going. The thorn dissipates into the fog that is Nightmare and heads on past the girls. Suddenly the trees are all making scary faces at them. The only one who isn't frightened is Pinkie Pie, who immediately starts laughing. A moment later, she starts singing about laughing at the things that scare you. This actually works. I gotta say, this was the weakest attempt by Nightmare Moon to stop the girls. If the trees had done something other than sit there and go, roar, then it would have been a bit more suspenseful. As it was, it just fell completely flat. Next, they come across a raging river. The water is being riled up by an effeminate sea dragon who's grieving for his ruined mustache. Most of the girls are raising their eyebrows at the whole situation, while Rarity is furious at the, quote, tacky purple cloud for doing this. She corrects the problem by slicing off her tail and using it to replace his destroyed mustache. The dragon is ecstatic. Personally, I think the two-colored mustache looks silly.
It's not silly, it's all a part of me.
Across the river is a ravine with a broken bridge, which Rainbow Dash immediately volunteers to fix. Mysterious voices call to her from the fog, calling her the best flyer in Equestria. The voices materialize into 3 Pegasi, who call themselves the Shadow Bolts. They tell her they want her to join the team, and she must choose either their flying team or her friends. She can't have both. Rainbow doesn't hesitate. She chooses her friends. Rather politely, I might add. The angry Pegasi burst, changing into the purple mist, which continues on to the castle. Now, a lot of the other analysts question this entire collection of sequences. They question why there were 5 tests that so conveniently had 5 ponies that could pass them. My answer? These weren't tests! Do you really think Nightmare Moon, of all ponies, would test the bearers of the elements to be sure they were the true bearers? She was trying to stop them, drive them back, or at least bar their path. In each instance where each particular pony of the moment shines, the moment where they declare or embody their element is focused on Twilight. It's her realization that the other 5 are the spirits of the elements that drives the plot. Could this have been done a little less heavy-handedly? Heck yes! But it's the pilot episode. Very rarely does the pilot have the best writing of the show, so I'm gonna cut them a little slack on this.
Oh wow, thank you so much!
The main 6 enter the castle, and immediately in front of them are the elements! Or rather, stone spheres that have pictures of gems on them. Rainbow and Fluttershy retrieve the spheres, and Twilight tells them that since there's only 5, she needs to try and do something to make the 6th appear. Telling them to stand back, she starts to work a spell. Applejack translates this to, "Let's all go outside and leave her unprotected." Yeah, nothing bad could possibly happen there. Nightmare appears, grabs the elements, and teleports away with them, taking Twilight along as well. What follows is my favorite moment in the entire pilot and what really solidified the awesomeness of this series for me. Twilight charges Nightmare, who responds with,
You're kidding. You're kidding, right?
Instead of taking her head on, Twilight teleports past her and tries again to activate the elements. They shine for a moment. Both think everything is over, but then the shine dies out. Nightmare begins to laugh triumphantly and shatters the spheres.
Well, that's not good.
Huh. I guess they weren't stone after all. Twilight thinks all is lost, but she hears her friends coming up the stairs, and suddenly a spark flashes in her eyes. She names each of her new friends, their elements, and the moment they embodied their elements. Nightmare Moon panics, but points out that they don't have the 6th element. Twilight dissents, pointing out that she felt the spark when she heard her friends coming up the stairs to help her. One more element appears and the magic surges through them. Each element forms into a necklace, except for Twilight's, which forms into a ridiculous looking crown. Seriously, that was the design they went with? It looks so freaking awkward. It doesn't sit on her head correctly, those curls at the ends don't go anywhere useful, and the whole thing looks so top-heavy that it seems like it would tumble right off her head the moment she even glanced down. Applejack tells Twilight she thought she was spouting a lot of hooey, but that she reckons they do embody the elements. Okay, wait. So you thought she was crazy or lying when she started talking about what happened on your adventure? That honestly doesn't make any sense to me. Applejack has changed very little from the beginning of the show, and really even from the early designs of the characters before the show began. That's because she had one of the better fleshed out personalities and character arcs from the get-go. So right from the start, AJ is a pony who never, or at least rarely, lies and is one of the first to believe the best about some pony. She's also remarkably observant, when written well, meaning she really should have been the first to believe Twilight when she was talking about the 5 of them embodying the elements. Really, this sentiment would have been more appropriate coming from Rainbow or even Rarity, as they tend to be the more suspicious ones. And then Celestia makes her grand entrance on a ball of light from the rising sun. Lauren Faust herself confirmed that during this two-parter, Nightmare Moon banished Celestia to the sun as a nice bit of revenge. Why this was changed from the sun to the moon in the cutie remark, I can only guess. Maybe Nightmare Moon wanted Celestia to be on display?
Works for me.
When Celestia declares that she had faith in Twilight's ability to banish Nightmare all along, Twilight is more than a little confused. As it turns out, Twilight was putting words in Celestia's mouth. Celestia also saw the signs and knew it was Twilight who could defeat Nightmare. Celestia walks over to the defeated Nightmare Moon, calling her Luna and sister. She shows forgiveness, asking Luna if she'll accept Celestia's friendship, and saying that she wants to rule alongside her again as they were meant to. After a brief moment of hesitation, Luna accepts. Pinkie and the residents of Ponyville throw a huge party celebrating Luna's return, but Twilight doesn't seem so happy. When Celestia asks why, she says it's because she's made so many new friends and has realized their importance, but now she has to leave them. So Celestia gives Twilight an official new mission, to study friendship and report back to her on it from Ponyville. We close on a cheer from the town and a nice little fourth wall break from Pinkie.
Isn't this exciting? Are you excited? Because I'm excited. I've never been so excited. Well, except for the time that went, but I mean, really.
I loved this pilot. This is one of the rare instances where the pilot episode gives you an idea of exactly what to expect from the rest of the show. The characters were well-rounded, the animation was actually very good for the first time out, and though there were 1 or 2 issues, it really didn't break my engagement with the story. Yeah, many people like to cry Deus Ex Machina or just extreme coincidence with the fact that the 5 ponies that wanted to be friends with Twilight just happen to be the same 5 that she needs to defeat Nightmare Moon and awaken the elements, but it's implied many times through the series that Celestia has some prophetic knowledge of events before Hoof, especially when Tyrek begins his rise to power. So I don't find it that hard to believe that Celestia knew Twilight would find exactly the ponies she needed in order to defeat Nightmare Moon. Something else occurred to me while I was watching this again with the Season 5 episode Amending Fences in mind. Twilight's Canterlot friends, Minuet, Lemon Hearts, Twinkleshine, and Lyra Heartstrings can all be seen in the background of this episode at some point. If Twilight hadn't blown off Moondancer's party, or if the other 4 had managed to encourage Moondancer to come along with them with the promise of seeing Twilight and the chance to make up, would these 5 have served as suitable bearers of the elements instead? Imagine it. Instead of 5 new ponies from each species making new friendships with Twilight, we could have seen her rediscovering her old friendships with the unicorns she's grown up with and slowly pushed out of her life due to her studies. It's interesting to contemplate. I think I'll leave it there and leave that thought to stew for y'all. I'm Fauna Joy, taking the hat off until the next episode. Twilight explains the prophecy in the elements. Twilight explains about the... Good grief. Pinkie immediately finds the right book on the shelf, and when questioned about how she did it, she answers rather simply, "It was under E!" No, I'm not going to do that. Though the 6 is out of the... She then tells Twilight she'll be fine if she lets go, insisting it's the honest truth that she'll be safe. I didn't like the way I emphasized honest. Twilight asks how she knew what needed to be done, and Fluttershy? She's very flattering. She corrects the problem by slicing off her tail and using it to destroy... She corrects the problem by slicing off her tail and using it to... Why do I keep having a problem with that line? Rainbow and Fluttershy retrieve the spears. Spears? That would be a different pilot altogether. Twilight tells them that since there's only 5, she needs to try to do something to make the 6th appear, and I really messed that up. Telling them to stand back, she starts to work a spell. Applejack translates with the unicorns she's grown up with and slowly pushed out of her life due to her... I think I'll leave it at that with that little stop. This is what I get for trying to improvise. I'm Fauna Joy, taking the hat off until next episode. And I missed a word there.